All right. Hey, welcome to the TCCE Winter Conference. Of course, it's 80 degrees outside, but this is our winter conference. We always combine with the Tennessee Chamber's annual event, which we held hybrid yesterday, and many of you were there, either virtually or in person. That worked out well. It was the first time we did that, but we wanted to add the TCCE component today. So welcome, all of you. There's a few here in person. Most of you are online, but welcome. We have a few members online. We have a few board members. The vice president of TCC this year is Vanessa Bennett, who is the executive director of operations and talent development for the Kingsport Chamber. So she will be chairing this event today. She got our keynote speaker, and she'll be leading the discussion on the idea exchange. We also have our sponsors online. We appreciate you so much. Some of you have been so faithful over the years, and we want to support you. So we have 4 on today, and we will start with, we'll just have you share your screen or just put you on, we'll unmute you, but we'll start with Mark with Convergent Nonprofit Solutions.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm sorry. I've got a big window in front of my desk and the sun's making me look funny right now. I'm trying to dodge it. I'm Mark Burdine with Convergent Nonprofit Solutions. We are your fundraising specialists. Anytime you need to raise a lot of money, please give me a call. Convergent can help. And if you know of anyone else in your community who is thinking about launching a fundraising campaign, other nonprofits in your community, we really appreciate you connecting us. 2020 was a challenging year for raising money. We did reasonably well with the campaigns that went forward, but a lot of campaigns either paused or postponed, and that's not the case anymore. 2021 is going gangbusters. I think that the first quarter of this year may have been our busiest ever. There's a lot of pent-up demand, almost a rush for funding, and there's a lot of money out there for organizations with a strong value proposition. So if you're thinking about doing a fundraising campaign, don't hold off. Give me a call. Convergent can help. And for those of you who are there in person, Susie can share my contact info, but I'm just going to put my cell phone and my email address in the chat for everyone who's virtual.
Thanks, Mark. We look forward to seeing you in August, hopefully, and we appreciate your support over the years.
Absolutely.
Our next sponsor is also a longtime sponsor in Journal Communications, but they go by Livability Media now, and Jared Lane is our next.
Thanks, Susie. I appreciate that introduction. As Susie mentioned, I'm Jared Lane. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for Livability Media, and we're a content marketing program that partners with chambers all over the country to give them tools at becoming more effective at marketing themselves. And we do this through our integrated marketing program, which entails beautiful print publication, digital magazine, and then also we promote your community on our national platform, which is called livability.com. And we get millions of annual visitors. And if you're looking for help with talent attraction or really amplifying your brand on a national level, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to meet with you via Zoom. Also, we just released a new white paper on remote work. So that's a hot topic right now, especially with the mass exodus from mega cities, which is going to help your community with talent attraction. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat. It's a free download white paper. And then also, if you'd like to schedule a meeting with me, you can just fill out the form below the white paper, and look forward to meeting with you guys. And also all of our current partners, we really appreciate your business.
Thanks so much, Jared. We appreciate you. Our next sponsor is our friend Ruth Woodall with the American Chemical Society. What's going on?
I'm there. Can you hear me? I can't hear anybody, so.
Ruth, we can hear you. You're good.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ruth Woodall, and during this meeting, I'm representing the Nashville section of the American Chemical Society, and I guess the whole state as well. The American Chemical Society is different from the American Chemistry Council, which a lot of you may be a member of. The American Chemical Society is, our members are mostly the boots on the ground people, chemists, chemical engineers, teachers, and just general practitioners. And we have student members as well. And I always sponsor this every year because I want you all to know that we have over 25 members across the state of Tennessee that depend on us for jobs, and so it's down them. And we appreciate what the American Chemical Council does. They're mostly the CEOs and big business and everything. So anyway, I'm also the executive director for Tennessee Scholars, but I'm so glad to be with you today. I'm looking forward to hearing Miles. Had a great time yesterday, Susie and Carolyn, and learned a lot of good information. So if you need information about, we do public outreach like Earth Day and National Chemistry Week and school activities. So if you need somebody to get you some materials or know how to get free links to what's going on with public outreach, just let me know. Or call Susie and she knows how to get in touch with me. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Ruth. Thanks for participating yesterday. And our last sponsor is another longtime supporter of TCCE, John Hensley with Target Marketing. And I think we have something to share on our screen. But John, we appreciate you. You're next.
Good morning, TCCE. I can't wait till August to see everybody in person. But I appreciate the opportunity, Susie, to be with you all virtually this morning. Many of you know Target Marketing. We've been in the chamber industry since 1986. Are you sharing the screen, Susie, there in person? Should I share it online or?
Hey, John, this is Carolyn. We can do either. Do you want to share it so you can drive it?
Yeah, sure thing.
Got it. You should be able to. I'll keep an eye on it.
All right. I just hit share. So can you see that?
Yes. Yeah, we can.
Forward's landing page. Okay. So we do publications for chambers, primarily maps. Been in the business since 1986. I haven't seen Mark Field online yet, but we started working with the Knoxville Chamber in 1989. So they are one of our longest partners. And we recently just started a campaign for Brandy in Pigeon Forge. And I did see Barbara from Johnson City online. So good to see you, Barbara. I actually talked to one of your neighbors yesterday with Interstate Graphics. So I'll talk to you about that a little bit later. But one of the things that we've done through our map campaign is create this landing page that's linked directly to the chamber's website to help promote the project. As you can see, we've got the front cover of the map is already designed. So we appreciate the help with that. We've got some bullet points. There's a fillable form. We also have the PDF of the letter that's linked. We asked the chamber to blast email this out to the members. Let me close that. And then as you scroll down, you can see we've got room for about 80 advertisers. They will be business card size ads. On the letter, you'll see actually an example of that business card size ad. The original size 3.25 by 1.75. There's several different advertising opportunities, single business cards, double business cards, triple business cards, or the 4-inch by 9-inch full color display ads. Everything is 100% turnkey. We do literally everything from start to finish. We ask the chamber to send a blast email out. We send you a couple proofs during the process. You get a nice royalty check from the publication, obviously, as well as the publication Target also becomes a dues paying member of your chamber. So you get a new member as well. We still have openings this year over the next couple months. So if you're looking for some additional non-dues revenue, if you're looking at your budget and need some additional non-dues revenue for 2021, we can help. So like the gentleman before me, I will put my information in the chat. So Susie, you can share it. Most of you probably have it. But again, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you guys in August.
All right, that is it. We also have sponsors of TBA, and the Tennessee Chamber is a yearly sponsor of TCCE. But we thank you all and appreciate you so much. Before Vanessa introduces our keynote, I just wanted to say, in the chamber world, they always say to get a mentor, and mine is Mr. Burdine. So he has been great over the years, and I'm really tired, so I'll probably cry, but he's always given me really good advice. He's never sugarcoated anything, as you will soon see. But do that if you have an opportunity, and we're working on that through TCCE, our mentorship program. But he has been mine, and he's just been great over the years. So I'll turn it over to Vanessa.
Good morning, everyone. I think that was the perfect introduction of Miles. I'm very fortunate to work for and with him. A little bit about Miles. He is a native of Kingsport and currently serves as the president and CEO of our Kingsport Chamber. Burdine is active and serves or has served in many leadership capacities with many community and state organizations. His other career is with the United States Marine Corps and United States Marine Corps Reserve. Having served over 30 years, he retired at the rank of colonel. Miles is the husband of Denise and the father of 3 daughters. Nikki is a television news anchor for WKRN here in Nashville. Laura is a logistics and operations director for Abjur Technology Group in Atlanta, but is based out of Nashville. And Elise is part owner of Legree Lux Pilates in Denver, Colorado. He is also the proud grandfather of Ada and Andy. Miles believes that if you ever have to scrub a toilet, you should do so with enthusiasm, that adversity is life's greatest teacher. In accountability, there are no excuses, and that people don't follow titles, they follow courage. Please welcome Miles Burdine.
Thank you. Please keep your seats. Can you hear me now? I had to say that. So. Thanks for that kind introduction, and Susie, for your kind words. But you failed to mention I'm also Bradley Jackson's parole officer. And he's not here this morning, so I hope he passed your analysis yesterday. Not sure, but you know, I was so honored to have this opportunity. I'm so proud. You know, Marines have a tendency to be a little cocky, and so I went home that night after Susie had asked me to do this, and Vanessa asked me to do this, and I went home and said to my wife, I said, honey, can you believe I'm going to have this opportunity to speak before a lot of my peers from across the state, probably 100 of them on a Zoom call, and I'm so excited about this. Did you ever think I'd have such an opportunity? Did you ever in your wildest dreams think I would have this opportunity to speak to this illustrious group? And she said, honey, and that's what she calls me when she's about to make fun of me. She said, honey, hate to disappoint you, but you're not in my wildest dreams. And that worked. It says right here, pause for laughter. Speaking of wildest dreams, I got to tell you a story about my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother, who was living in a retirement home at that time. Am I supposed to look here or there? Am I supposed to look here? Both. Both? Okay. All right.
You can split your eyes.
Okay. She was living in a retirement home. She got real excited. Now she's a bit of a card. She likes to play pranks on people. She called me. She says, "Hey, grandson, can you come over and I'm going to have the opportunity to do a toast for one of our residents who's turning 100 years old." And I said, "Sure, I'll be over there." So I went over there, and the room was full of 100 people, and they're all drinking alcohol. They're all 90 years old. I'm thinking this is going to be quite an experience. So my grandmother starts it, and she gets introduced, and she stands up and she goes, "Please raise your glasses." And she says, "Fornication." And everybody was laughing except me. And she looks at me and winks, and she says, "For on this occasion," you get it? I know y'all well enough, so I think you'll be okay with that. So. Which, by the way, Susie told me when she asked me to do this, she says, please don't try to be funny. Please don't try to sound smart. Just be yourself. And I didn't know exactly how to take that. But she did say, but you do have to say something that's going to justify the $10,000 speaker fee you're going to get. So I had to come up with something. So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about leadership. And I want to tell you that what you do on a daily basis matters. And what you say on a daily basis matters. And how you say it matters. You are constantly being watched as chamber execs, as chamber staff members. Your community is always watching what you do. But what you do is make a difference in your community, and we greatly appreciate that. So what kind of you have every morning when you get up, you have an opportunity to make a decision. You can decide what you want for breakfast. You want bacon or you want sausage on your biscuit. What you're going to wear. You're going to wear pants today since you're on Zoom, or maybe you don't have to wear pants. These are all decisions you have to make. But the most important decision you have to make on a daily basis is what kind of leader you're going to be. It's your decision. You can be a good leader or a bad leader. You can be positive, you can be negative. Think about it this way. Was Saddam Hussein a leader? Was Adolf Hitler a leader? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. Both of them were leaders. And unfortunately, they had followers. So you have a title. All of us have titles. So will those you work with do what you say because they want to, or will they do what you say because they have to? And there's a big difference. In the Marine Corps, we don't use the M word, which is manager. We use the word leader. We don't like managers. So here's the difference between managers and leaders. Managers push their people. Leaders pull theirs by sheer focus of personal example. Managers order their personnel to get the job done. Leaders inspire their personnel to get the job done. Managers build a fire under your butt. Leaders build a fire in your belly. Hands-on managers cultivate obedience. Hands-off leaders cultivate independence, resourcefulness, and loyalty. Managers consider themselves part of an exclusive club. Leaders maintain the respect and fellowship of those who report to them. Vanessa's fond of saying around our office, never above you, never below you, always beside you. And everybody believes that in our office. Managers accept credit for the success of those they supervise. Leaders turn away from the spotlight, letting it shine upon those who they have the honor to lead. Around our office, we hate the words assistant, subordinate, and receptionist. In fact, our receptionist is called Director of First Impressions. We use words like coordinator. We don't use administrative assistant, we use administrative professional. We consider ourselves fellow employees. If anybody says to me, I didn't know he worked for you or she works for you, I consider that a compliment because we work with each other, not for each other. When a project turns sour, the manager asks, who is responsible? The leaders say, I'm responsible. It's my fault. You work overtime for a manager, you work all the time for a leader. Managers need to consistently make their presence known. Leaders inspire from afar, even from the grave. So I hope you understand why we like in the Marine Corps the word leader versus manager. So I'm going to talk to you today about people who've led me when I'm supposed to be leading them. I'm supposed to be inspiring them, supposed to be making them do good. Instead, they turn the tables and inspire me and lead me. I'm going to talk to you about my daughter, a Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps, third lowest rank in the Marine Corps, an employee. I'm going to tell you about 2 custodians, and I'm going to tell you about my dog who led me as well. People who hold themselves accountable, accept responsibility, accepted and overcame adversity. I remember laying at the foot of my mom's bed as a young kid, and that's where we all solved the day's problems, talked about what happened that day. My mom asked, how'd you do on that science test today? And I said, oh, Mom, I didn't do too well. I flunked it. And, nobody did real well. And the teacher's not a good teacher. And I didn't sleep well the night before. Gave her all kinds of reasons why I flunked that test. I'll never forget what she responded with. She said, son, you're responsible for your own attitude, your own reputation, your own words, and your own actions. If the truth hurts, it's not the truth's fault. You flunked that test, not your teacher, not your fellow students. You flunked that test. So I considered from that day forward, I would hold myself accountable for everything I did. Speaking of the truth, some of you probably know Representative Bud Halsey. He's actually my state representative up in Kingsport. And I've heard him speak several times. And he told me, he's a retired police officer. He told me one time, he said, there's three things that will tell you the truth. I learned this in my 30 years as a police officer. There's three things that will always tell you the truth. Kids will always tell you the truth. Drunk people will always tell you the truth. And yoga pants will always tell you the truth. I have to give credit to Bud Halsey for that. Some of the people I'm going to talk to you about faced unbelievable adversity, and they overcame. Some taught me some very simple life lessons. Some remind me of Jack Sparrow and Pirates of the Caribbean. Have y'all seen that movie? I've never seen it, but he's got a great quote in there. He says, the problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. So see, life is not about what happens to you. It's about how you react to what happens to you. First person I'm going to tell you about is David Savage. Back in 84 through 87, I was on recruiting duty, officer selection duty. So the selection was a key word because I had more people applying. That's probably easier if I look at you all. I look here.
Yeah.
Okay. Tiny box. Okay. I'm not a big person, so that works. So. Yeah. Matter of fact. Officer selection officer was my title. So it's my job to select the best and the brightest who wanted to become Marine officers. I had more applying than I could accept. So I thought I was pretty good at it until I met David Savage. David Savage came to me, which Savage is a great name, last name for a Marine. So I gave him some points for that. But I handed him a package of it. He said, I want to be a Marine officer. And I said, okay, here, go fill this out. And kind of sloughed him off. And he came back the next day. All of it was typed, perfectly filled out. And so I said, so the next step is you have to get a physical. So he got a physical the next week and he passed it. And he came back and I said, okay, the next step is you got to take a physical fitness test. 3-mile run, sit-ups and pull-ups. I predicted he would flunk, and he did. But he said something I really liked. He said, can I come back and take it again? I said, sure. So he came back the next week. He flunked it again. Finally, after the 4th time, he passed the physical fitness test. So I began to like what I was seeing in this young man. So I sent his package I back up. I sent him to Citadel. He was at the College of Charleston studying to be, he wanted to be an attorney. So I sent him down there. I said, while you're at the College of Charleston, I want you to go to the Citadel and work out with the Marine officer candidates there. Now, these guys get up at 4 a.m. They start their physical training. You know, most of my kids were coming in about that time, if you know what I mean. But anyway, he began to work out with them, and I would call the gunnery sergeant down there on a weekly basis. Say, how's Savage doing? He'd say, sir, I'll tell you what, that kid, he doesn't finish first. He used to finish last. He doesn't finish last anymore. He won't quit. And when he gets done, he goes and helps others. So I began to feel more positive about this young man. And he got better and better. So I figured it's time to send his application to Headquarters Marine Corps. So I sent his application where he competed to get in. He got in. So now I'm worried. He's going to go to officer candidate school with my name associated with him, compete against 1,000 other candidates from all across the country. Now, officer candidate school exists only for the purpose of weeding out those who can and cannot. They absolutely are trying to get you to quit. So out of the 1,000, about 500 graduate every year. And I predicted he would be one of those. I checked on him, was told the same thing. This kid won't quit. He just won't quit. And when he gets done, he helps others. So Savage graduated from officer candidate school, was commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant. He came back to my office in Columbia, South Carolina. And I said, Savage? He said, that's Lieutenant Savage, sir. And I said, yeah, okay, you're right, Lieutenant Savage. I said, you graduated, but you also won the Commandant's Trophy, which meant you were the #1 candidate out of all 500 to graduate from all across the country. That means you spanked every single one that you competed against at officer candidate school. 10 weeks of getting your butt kicked, and you finished #1. How did you do that? He said something I'll never forget. He said, sir, I scrub shitters with enthusiasm. Is it okay to say shitter? Okay. Okay, it is not. Said it. He said, "Sir, I scrub shitters with enthusiasm." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I don't care what they told me to do. I don't care when they told me to do it. I did it to the best of my ability, and I did it with enthusiasm." And they woke me. I went to bed at 11 o'clock one night. They woke me up at 1 o'clock in the morning. They gave me a toothbrush and they said, "Go scrub those shitters." And by God, I did. I did it to the best of my ability. And when I got done, I helped others scrub their shitters too. So Savage taught me something right there. There's no such thing as a menial task. If you shake a person's hand, you tell them you're going to do it, you have to do it, and you have to do it to the best of your ability. So I was supposed to be leading David Savage. Instead, he was leading me. Oh, Bob. Click. Now, I got to show this. Can y'all see this?
Can they see it?
Yeah, they can see it.
Yeah.
So whenever I do this presentation, any presentation, if Vanessa's with me, she does the clicking. But if Vanessa's not with me, she puts a big mark right here that says click. That reminds me I need to click. So the next person, if you will, that I want to tell you about that I was supposed to be leading and influencing and taking care of was my dog Grunt. Look at that picture there, and you can see there's a sign up at the top that says "No cats allowed," and Grunt's laying in front of the cage, and the cat's laying on his bed. So that tells you a little bit about Grunt's attitude. And Grunt's a good name for a dog. Actually came after Marine Corps infantryman. That's where it came from. But I tricked my kids into calling him Grunt because when we got him as a puppy, he grunted a lot. So that's how I tricked him into saying we'll call him Grunt. So I'm standing in my driveway waiting on two of my daughters to come home from the University of Tennessee. They were there at the same time. They're 2 years apart. And I was all excited because I hadn't seen them in, it had probably been a couple of months. And they were coming in and they were driving in the driveway, and I'm all excited to see them. And they get out of the car and they come up real quick and they give me a quick peck on the cheek. Just, we call it a kiss sandwich in our family. And they leave me and they find Grunt laying on the ground, and they start rubbing on Grunt and scratching on Grunt and rubbing his ears and hugging on Grunt. And Grunt even rolls over and says, "Hey, you missed a spot." They're scratching him and loving him. And I'm looking at this very curious. I'm thinking, you know what? I pay for their school. I pay for their car. I pay for their cell phones. I pay for their insurance. I pay for everything. I get a kiss on the cheek and Grunt gets all the attention. What the heck's going on here? I studied on it for a long time, and I finally figured out what it was. Grunt could offer something that we as humans could offer, but we don't necessarily do so. And that is unconditional love, unconditional loyalty, unconditional support. It didn't matter what kind of mood one of my daughters was in. Grunt was always wagging his tail, always happy to see them. He could sit next to them, and I could hear one of my daughters saying something that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And he's got that look on his face like, "My God, that's the most amazing thing I've ever heard." We would put Grunt in that cage when we went to work, and we'd give him a bone. And when we got home, he would come back out and want to share the bone with us. He didn't eat it all day long. So there's a few other things I learned from Grunt, and I want to read these to you. Laptop dogs make better companions than laptop computers. No matter how often you're scolded, don't pout and feel sorry for yourself. Run right back and make friends. Now, this next one is supposed to be funny, so I'm just giving you a little heads up, okay? Dogs are concerned about the economy too. Alpo is up to $3 per can, but that's $21 in dog dollars. Y'all get that? Susie's laughing, but I think it's forced laugh. So. When someone's having a bad day, be silent, sit close by, and nuzzle them gently. Love your family more than you love yourself. If you want friends, wag your tail, not your daggum tongue. You don't have to be rich, famous, or powerful to be loved. This next one's supposed to be a little bit funny, so I'm setting it up. So, women and cats will do as they please, and men and dogs should relax and get used to that fact. That wasn't quite as funny, was it? Be kind to everyone because everyone is fighting some kind of battle. Be loyal. If you want what lies buried, dig until you find it. And at all costs, regardless of the risk, protect your family. When Grunt died in 2008, he had already taught me so many valuable lessons. But some of those that I just read to you, we actually had a sign made, put it in the front yard. And I would watch as families would walk by and they would read what was on that sign to their kids. And sometimes the moms and dads had tears in their eyes. And I realized what was going on there was Grunt, who would lay in the yard, and family would walk by, and Grunt would walk with them around the block. And then he'd lay there until the next family came by. So Grunt taught me some wonderful, wonderful lessons. And I sure missed him. My youngest daughter, Elise, came to me after he had died. She said, "Dad, it hurts so bad. It just hurts so bad." And so the three daughters got together and had a little sign made. It's still next to the Grunt's grave. It says, "If love could have saved you, you would have lived forever." And then here, click. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a shameless plug for this book that my daughter wrote, Live Like Grunt. Okay, click again. Now that's Grunt's successor. There's a big old chocolate lab named Jarhead. Wonder where that name came from.
Is he drinking that beer?
That's not Jarhead drink. Jarhead's beer. That might be my beer. Hunter Quillen used to work for us. And as you can see, she's a very lovely young lady. And I happen to be standing next to our director of first impressions, Karen Redmond, at the front desk when Hunter came around the corner, and she was exceptionally well dressed, looking very lovely that day. She's former Miss Kingsport, as a matter of fact. And Karen says to Hunter, "Wow, you look like the senator's wife." To which Hunter replied something that I've taught my daughters, and you as ladies in the room and ladies on Zoom, never forget this. Hunter's reply was, "I don't want to be the senator's wife. I want to be the senator." I was so proud of her. And so I've told that story many years to young ladies as they're growing up, the importance of not lessening your expectations of life, and especially at the workplace. So I was supposed to be leading Hunter. Instead, she turned the tables and led me. You know, as chamber staffers, we get the opportunities to work on many, many projects. Some you wish you didn't get to work on, but most are great opportunities. Vanessa and I've had the opportunity to work on creating a sentinel at our Veterans Memorial. We've got the opportunity to work on the Gold Star Families Memorial. But by far, this is my favorite. It's the Miracle Field. It's a baseball field for children of all abilities. It includes a playground for children of all abilities. And the inspiration for this baseball field of all abilities, for kids of all abilities, was man I work with, Judd Teague, and his son, Nicholas Teague. Nicholas, as you can see, has Down syndrome. And Judd, who played baseball at the University of Tennessee and played professional for a little while, has always said, "I want my son to have the opportunity to play baseball too." So we raised $2.5 million and built that field and opened it last August. Now children who are in wheelchairs, children who are blind, children who are walkers, children who are mentally disabled will have the opportunity to play baseball. And there's actually a screen up there that when Nicholas Teague comes to bat, the screen flashes his picture up on the screen and says, "Batting next is Nicholas Teague from Kingsport, Tennessee." And all kids hit and all kids score. And they all have buddies with them. And we'll be out there with them being buddies to walk them around the field. That was actually my fate. Now we called Nicholas the Pickpocket 2. That's because when he enters our building, he steals your heart. Pickpocket. These are two other people that stole my heart over the years. On the left there is Tim Harris. Tim was known as the original pickpocket. Tim, who has Down syndrome, opened up his own business, own restaurant, and it was called The Happiest Place in America. We brought Tim in to come speak to our staff and had actually several events around the community, and even had a hug-a-thon where you paid $5, you get a hug from Tim, and that money went to the Miracle Field. We had Tim come speak to our staff, and I'll never forget one of probably his best parts. Well, he said, "Before I was born," he said, "my parents received apologies from people who knew that I was going to be born with Down syndrome. They said, 'I'm so sorry for you. I'm so sorry for you.'" And then Tim said, "But that was before they knew how awesome I was going to be." What an attitude. What an attitude. The one next to him there is HK Derryberry, who actually lives here in Nashville. And we've had him come up to speak to our staff and to others in the community as well. As you can see, HK is blind. HK has many disabilities, but his best buddy there, Jim Bradford, the two of them are now a pair where they travel the country doing inspirational speaking. So think about this. Now I'm looking around the room here and I can't see the people on Zoom, but I guarantee you some of you are experiencing some kind of adversity, or you have in the past, or you will in the future. When you're worried about how you're going to overcome the adversity, how you're going to accept it, don't feel sorry for yourself. Instead, think about these three young men and then overcome. Work ethic. Young lady came to see me one time who was working for me, working for us, working with me. And oops. And she came and she was upset. She said, "Why did not I get that promotion?" And I said, "You know, I need to apologize to you." And she began to straighten up like, "Oh, I'm looking at an apology for not getting a promotion." I said, "I'm not going to apologize to you for not promoting you. I am going to apologize to you because I did not tell you, I did not lead you. I did not describe to you what you needed to do in order to get considered for the promotion. I didn't teach you. I didn't lead you. That's my fault, and I apologize for it." But back to your reputation. How do you want to be known? I said, here's what you're known for. And I'm going to go ahead and share it with you now. And hopefully you'll use this as constructive criticism and you'll better yourself. And I apologize. I said, you're an 8 to 5. She said, what's that mean? I said, you show up at 8, you leave at 5. If the meeting starts at 10, you arrive at 10. And when you're done with the meeting, you don't try to help, you don't try to set up, you don't try to put it back together, you just leave. You see a piece of trash on the ground, you step over it. Here's what I'm looking for. You've got the skills, you've got the training. Your character is what you are when nobody's watching. You only do what's in your job description, you do nothing more. I'm looking for someone who has a positive attitude, someone who picks up the piece of trash, someone who shows up 10 minutes early and helps to set up, someone who stays 10 minutes late and helps to put the room back together. I'm looking for someone who has a positive attitude. I'm not looking for someone who has fellow employees who are worried about what kind of attitude you're going to have today. You're going to be in a good mood, you're going to be in a bad mood. To her credit, she accepted all that. But before she left, I said, by the way, I said, are you really sick on all those sick days? And because she took every single one of them. She said, no, they're my sick days. I'm gonna take them. That's what I thought. I said, you know, I know a gentleman who retired from local company after 40 years. And you know how many days for being sick he missed? Full days for being sick? 0. And I asked him, I said, how'd you do that? He's retired now. I said, how'd you do that? He said, well, you know, there were days when I didn't feel good, but I always felt like I still need to come into work. I wasn't sick enough to not come to work. And I knew someone would have to do my job for me. And I finally figured out if I was really going to be sick, I'd make sure I did it on weekends or holidays. Now, I don't know how in the world he did that, but that's what he said. But he also said something, that's what this picture is about. He said, we have a saying around our house that if you're not feeling good, drink some orange juice and do some push-ups. In other words, suck it up. So that young lady, to her credit, took that constructive criticism, and she doesn't work for us anymore, work with us anymore. But whenever I see her, she always comes up to me and says something like, picked up a piece of trash today. I was 10 minutes early today. So I'm very proud of where she is now, what she's doing, and the fact that she took those little tips. Next person I want to talk to you about is my daughter, Nikki. It was described earlier, Vanessa mentioned earlier that she's the weekday morning news anchor, Channel 2 here in Nashville, WKRN, and I hope you all will watch her. Very proud of her. But Nikki, I'm going to tell you a few stories about Nikki that, again, I'm supposed to be leading her and inspiring her, but instead she did the same to me. Walking through the halls of Dobbs High School in Kingsport, this was after Nikki had left, and walking up the ramp, and a custodian stops me and she says, "Hey, how's Nikki doing?" Kind of caught me by surprise. And I said, "Well, she's doing great. She's at the University of Tennessee studying broadcasting, living her dreams." I said, "You knew Nikki?" And she said something that made me very proud. She said, "Oh, I knew Nikki." She said, "Every morning I saw her in the hall. She called me by name and said good morning to me." I thought, wow, Nikki just taught me at that particular time, there's no unimportant people, no unimportant task. How you treat people who you perceive as being able to do you absolutely no good defines your character. If you're not nice to the receptionist when you walk in the restaurant, but you are nice to the restaurant owner, that makes you a hypocrite, doesn't make you a good person. Nikki taught me that just in that simple encounter with a custodian at Dobbs Benton High School. Now, Nikki, you might be surprised to know this, but she has obsessive compulsive disorder and Tourette's syndrome, but yet she's a television news anchor. When Nikki was in high school, she developed this disease, and it got so bad that we had to adjust her medication over and over and over again. And it was so bad that she would keep it inside when she was in school because she was embarrassed about her yelling or tics or screaming. But when she came home, she'd let it out. It got so bad that her sisters would say, "Nikki, would you shut up?" Because she's yelling, she's screaming, she's looking in corners and counting, had to do everything a certain way. And we didn't know it at the time, but we found out later on that the reason she was doing those things is if she felt like if she didn't do them, then something bad was going to happen to her dad, me, during my frequent deployments. We didn't know it at the time, but we found out later on that as her psychiatrist told us. Anyway, we finally got her adjusted at high school, and then she went to University of Tennessee, where the change in the environment really affected her. And to the point where one of her roommate's fathers, who was a good friend of mine, called me and said, "Hey, Miles, you need to come get Nikki. All she does is cry and sleep." So I called Nikki. I said, "You want to come home for the semester and we'll just take it easy and get your medicine adjusted?" And she said something I was very proud. She said, "No, don't you come get me. I'm not leaving." So I called back to my buddy and I said, "You need to tell those girls in that suite of hers that they need to take care of her. She's not coming home. They need to help her." To their credit, they did. But it wasn't long after that when Nikki graduated and went to her first television station, which was WHAG in Hagerstown, Maryland. And there was the National Tourette's and OCD Symposium was being held in Washington, D.C., which was near Hagerstown, Maryland. So Nikki calls up the organization. She said, "I'd like to come cover you, your symposium. Would that be okay?" And the lady said, "Well, sure, but why do you want to cover us?" And Nikki said, "Well, I've got OCD and I got Tourette's." And the lady on the phone says, "Can you hold on 1 minute?" So the executive director of the organization comes and says, let me make sure I understand this. "You've got Tourette's." "Yes, ma'am." "You've got obsessive compulsive disorder." "Yes, ma'am." "And yet you're a television news anchor." She said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Well, that's the one job you can't possibly have," which made Nikki even more determined. So they ended up inviting Nikki to come speak at the symposium, not just cover it, which she did. And I happened to fly up to be in Washington, D.C. for some Marine Corps business. I flew up a day ahead of time and went to go watch the symposium. It was a very large room, had probably 100, 150 people in it. Most of them had Tourette's or OCD. And so there's a lot of screaming and yelling and jerking and hollering. And it was wild until the speaker got up, who had Tourette's and OCD. And he stands up and he says, everybody got kind of quiet, sort of quiet. And I'm standing in the back of the room, and he says, "I'd like to introduce Nikki Burdine, who has OCD and Tourette's, and she's a television news reporter. And Nikki, before you get up here, I'm warn you, I'm going to call your name over and over and over again." And the guy sitting over here says, "Yeah, I'm going to cuss at you too." Well, sure enough, she gets up and starts talking. And the guy introduced her going, "Nikki Burdine, Nikki Burdine, Nikki Burdine." This guy over here is going, blank, 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 blank. I'm in the back going, "What the?" So she gets done. Nobody thinks anything of it because that's just the way OCD and Tourette's is. She walks out and a young mom comes up to me and she says, "Would you mind if your daughter talks to my daughter?" I said, "Of course not." So they went over and sat on the couch. I watched them. They held hands and they both cried. And the mother came up to me and said, "Thank you. Your daughter gave my daughter hope." So when you watch Nikki on TV, watch her tomorrow morning if you can. You won't see her doing any of her tics. But I asked her one time, because this is something she'll never outlive. This is something she'll have to live with the rest of her life. I asked her one time, I said, Nikki, how do you control it? She said, Dad, they don't know what I'm doing underneath the desk. But her employers are very supportive of her, and they've even encouraged her to use that affliction to get it into the community that you can overcome such an affliction. And she's done that with several young people, especially. It was mentioned earlier that my granddaughter, Andy, there she is. Nikki gave birth to Andy in May of 2019. She was born 3 months early. She weighed 1 pound, 4 ounces. I happened to be here giving another presentation when my son-in-law called and says, you better get to the hospital right now. They're going to take the baby. So I went running over there as quick as I could and got to see Nikki for about 5 minutes. Now, let me tell you, I've been through some horrible places in this world. Seen some things that I would never speak about. And I've seen fear in men. Fear of death. But I've never seen fear like what I saw in my daughter that day. It was unbelievable. But Andy was born, and I saw her last night. She's small, but she's fierce, and she'll be 2 years old in May. And she's walking and jabbering and doing belly flops with me and doing hug contests, and so she's doing great. So I'm very proud of her. Share another quick story about Nikki. Had to brag on her a little bit. And when she was in Washington, D.C. as a television news reporter, she got invited to Joe Biden's house when he was the vice president. And I didn't know it. We were actually getting ready to go on the boat to go to spend some time at the beach. My phone rings and says, Nikki Burdine. Lisa's sitting right next to me. I said, hey, Nikki, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. She said, I hear this man say, thank you for your service. It was Memorial Day. Thank you for your service. Blah, 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 vice president, blah, blah, blah. We spent the next 5 minutes talking about what kind of beer we drink and where I was going to the beach. And Nikki's a good reporter. And he kept thanking me for my service. I said, well, thank you for thanking me. Okay. We hang up and Nikki calls right back and says, Dad, that was the vice president of the United States. I said, well, I heard vice president. I thought it was just your company. She said, no, that's the vice president of the United States of America. I was polite to him, but I just had no idea. So anyway, another side funny story. Nikki and her husband got invited to the vice president's house for a Christmas reception. And they're standing there talking, all these dignitaries, got their picture taken with the Bidens. And Justin, my son-in-law, leans over to Nikki and says, Nikki, I gotta go to the bathroom. And Nikki says, not like you go to the bathroom at our house, do you? And Justin said, yes. So Justin goes into Joe Biden's bathroom and takes a selfie. I've got that picture framed in my bathroom now. So y'all are friends, so I want to share that with you. But the fact that he kept thanking me for my service, it kind of bothered me. I said, why does he keep thanking me? Because I kept thinking, I got to do what I wanted to do. If you think about it, there's a book called Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. And in that book, I'll read this quote right. Although probably misplaced, forgotten, or misdirected, inside the heart of every man, all a man really wants is an adventure to live, a beauty to protect, and a battle to fight. So if you listen to those words, I got to do what I wanted. We're a volunteer service. My point in telling you that is the ones you really need to thank are their families. So the next time you go up and thank a service person, which is generally appreciate, kids, their employers, their spouses, their relatives, please take time to thank them. Next person I want to tell you about is Army Master Sergeant William Crawford, World War II. And James Moshcott, who was a cadet at the United States Air Force Academy, got to know Army Master Sergeant William Crawford. He was the custodian. So his job was to make sure that the place was cleaned up. His job was to make sure that cadets were where they were supposed to be. His job was to keep order within the barracks and in the bathroom, in the head. That was his job. He was not a particularly impressive man to look at. He walked kind of slunched over just a little bit and wouldn't really look people in the eye. And the cadets were nice to him, but they didn't really pay attention to him because he was the custodian. Until one day, James Moscott was reading a story about Army Master Sergeant William Crawford, then Private William Crawford. For conspicuous gallantry at risk of life above and beyond the call of duty in action within the enemy, Altaville, Italy, 13 September 1943, when Company I attacked an enemy-held position on Hill 424, the 3rd platoon, in which Private Crawford was a squad scout, attacked as a base platoon for the company. After reaching the crest of the hill, platoon was pinned down by intense enemy machine gun and small arms fired. Locating one of these guns, which was dug in a terrace on the immediate front, Private Crawford, without orders and on his own initiative, moved over the hill under enemy fire to point within a few yards of gun emplacement and single-handedly destroyed the machine gun and killed 3 of the crew with a hand grenade. When platoon reached the crest, was more delayed by enemy fire. Private Crawford, again, in the face of intense fire, advanced directly to the front midway between 2 hostile machine gun nests. And the citation goes on. You guessed it, for conspicuous gallantry, at the risk in life and beyond the call of duty, Bill Crawford was the recipient of the Medal of Honor. There he is. He was the custodian. So after John Muscott read this, James Muscott read this story, he went to Private Crawford, who was then retired Master Sergeant William Crawford, and he said, "Mr. Crawford, is this you?" Mr. Crawford said, "That was me." He said, "Why didn't you tell us?" He said, "That's just something that happened a long time ago." So from then on, William Crawford began to walk straight up. He got more respect. He was wearing his uniform. He was invited to events. He got to speak at certain events. So what lessons in life there are there? William Crawford was a custodian, but he was a Medal of Honor recipient. A few lessons. Be cautious of labels. He's just the janitor. Everyone deserves respect. Take time to get to know your people. If they had taken time to get to know him, they would have known he was a Medal of Honor recipient. So William Crawford, who I wish I had known, inspired and led me. Next. Click, yeah. This is my father, Doyle Adrian Burdine. He was fond of stating attitude is everything. I'm an optimist because I choose to be. And my dad had Lou Gehrig's disease. If adversity was life's greatest teacher, he was absolutely a star pupil. So my father, when he was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, was at Duke University. And the way they diagnose that disease is they rule out everything else. There's no test that you can be given that says you have it. And so the doctor, I was sitting next to my father when the doctor said to Dad, "Doyle, you have Lou Gehrig's disease and you're going to die." And they said it a lot nicer than that. That's what he said. Dad said, "I got it." So we got in the car, we drove back home. Did talk a little bit much about the disease, talked about life in general. We got back, we had to get our family together. He was the father of 6 kids, of which I'm the oldest. And we got together and we had to make a decision. Do we want to let our father stay at home and we'll be with him all the time? Or do we want to let him go in a hospital or another place where he can pass on from there? We chose the former. We chose to let him stay in his condo. And of the 6 kids, somebody was with him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And boy, were we glad we did. Now, you know how when you're with your parents or your grandparents and you get to know them real well as a kid, but later on, when you grow up and you get your own family, your own spouse, your own kids, you're not with them as much as you once were. Doesn't mean you don't love them any less. It's just natural. That's just what happens in the circle of life. Well, this gave us an opportunity to get to know our father again. And I'll tell you a few lessons I learned from him, relearned from him that time. One particular time I was sitting beside him and I said, Dad, I said, why'd you give so much of yourself? He was a known volunteer. He was on the Board of Education, president of the Boys and Girls Club, football coach. List goes on and on and on. United Way, Red Cross. Yeah, he just always given of himself. And I said to him, I said, Dad, why'd you do that? And he said, because I'm selfish. I said, Dad, that makes no sense. Makes no sense. What are you talking about? He said, son, I got more than I gave. Got more than I gave. He said, listen, never let a day pass that you don't do something nice for someone. He said, do you remember the time when I came home for lunch and you were in junior high school and you wanted to spend some time with me and what happened? I said, yeah. He said, tell me that story. I said, well, Dad, you came home from work and it was lunchtime. I was trying to talk you out of going back to work so we could go fishing or play some golf or throw some football or something. You said, son, I got to go back to work. But I want you, while I'm gone, I want you to go next door to our neighbor's house and mow their yard, trim their bushes, edge their driveway, and blow it off. When I come back home, I'll inspect. Okay, Dad. So I did that, did all that all afternoon. When he came back, and he came over and he inspected, and I'm standing there with my hand out thinking I'm gonna get a few bucks out of this. Here's all I got. Can they see me if I come over here? In case you didn't see me, I patted Susie on the back. That's all I got out of the deal. A little while later, knock on the door, and there's our next door neighbor. I'm thinking, this guy's gonna give me some money. He opens the door and he says, Doyle, he says, somebody mowed my lawn, trimmed my bushes, edged my driveway, blew it up. It looks great. He said, do you know who did that? I'm standing there with a smile on my face, and my dad says, I think it's somebody just wanted to do something good for you. Wow. So that particular time, I learned a great lesson in life. One that Dad told me. If you're having a bad day, go do something nice for someone and you'll feel better. If you really want to feel good, do the good deed anonymously. So I make it a point every day to at least pay someone a compliment. Try to do something good for somebody every day. Now, Dad is supposed to lead me and inspire me, and he certainly did that day. So as his disease began to progress, and he was later on oxygen tank, and we're sitting on the back deck of Riverfront Seafood in Kingsport. I see some of y'all nodding who know that restaurant well. Actually, my brother ironically owns it now. He didn't at that time. But we're on the back deck overlooking the river, and a lot of his family's there sipping on adult beverages, and there's a live band playing in the corner. I watched my father, who's on his oxygen tank, and he's playing the drums. Play. And I watched him as he leaned over to his girlfriend. And he says, gosh, I wish I could still dance with you. And what I learned at that particular time, don't wait until you're dying, until you start living. They may have taken his life, but they didn't take his spirit. Not long after that, my sister calls and she says, Dad's falling out of bed. Come help me. So I lived a mile away. So I get up there real quick, and there's Dad laying on the floor. He's got his head in my sister's lap, and I've been down to pick him up. And he used to weigh about 180. Now he's barely 100. And it struck me that I was experiencing the great circle of life at that time, because he used to pick me up and put me in bed. So I laid him down, adjusted his oxygen mask. And I said, Dad, is there anything I can get for you? He peeled back the oxygen mask and said something I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, so far, so good. And then he put the mask back. And then he peeled the mask back again. And he said, son, you're a good man. Put it back and he went to sleep. And I thought, my God, this guy should be angry at the world. He should be so upset. But instead, he was trying to make me feel good about where I was in life at that particular time. Not long after that, we were sitting around the table in his condo, and hospice was there. And you know what hospice means. And they explained to my dad, Dole, we're going to keep you comfortable. We're not going to keep you alive. Said it nicer than that, but that's what they said. And we need you to sign these papers acknowledging that that's going to happen. So he picked up the pen, He started to sign it. And he put his pen down. He looked up at them and he said, let me tell you something. I'm going to sign these papers, but that doesn't mean I'm quitting. I believe attitude is everything, and I'm not quitting. He picked up the pen. He finished signing. I was so proud. After Thanksgiving, 2003, his family is gathered in his condo. We knew the time was coming. We're all still trying to have fun, and he's sitting over in his recliner, kind of watching, smiling with his family. I went over and sat next to him. I said, Dad, is there anything I can get for you? He points at a piece of paper. I pick it up and he says, read it. So I did. It was his funeral arrangements. I read it. Who's supposed to sing? Who's going to say what? I said, anything you want to change? He said, no. So we helped him into his wheelchair, his motorized wheelchair. And he starts wheeling through all his family members. Everybody's saying goodnight to him. He's just doing thumbs up. Put him in his bed, and he died the next day. And I'm convinced that he knew, absolutely knew, that was his last day on earth. So Dad's tombstone, which I go see frequently, not far from my house, has the date he was born and the date he died, and then a dash in between them. And that dash is what's important. I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute. But also at the top, it says, attitude is everything. Now, my brother owning a riverfront restaurant, next time you're in there, Vanessa, Bob, you guys come up, I'm going to take you there. And the restaurant on the menu has attitude is everything. He had masks made that says attitude is everything. And people really grab hold of that, and they like it, and they've heard the story, and they understand why it's like that. This is Mamoon Sami Rashid Alawani, or Abu Muhammad. Abu Muhammad means father of Muhammad. In the Arab world, just calling yourself Abu and your son's name is pretty common. But I called him Mamoon. That's me standing there next to him at a site of a terrorist attack. But I'm supposed to be leading this man. I got recruited to come take care of this man, to help him build a government, to help recruit police officers, to help build schools. And I'm supposed to be leading him and teaching him. But by gosh, he turned the tables and led and inspired me. He was the governor of the Al-Anbar province, which at that time was the most violent place in America. It was so violent that the national government in Iraq would not come there. It was so violent that the U.S. State Department would not come there. We had arguments with them about why they wouldn't come to help their own province. And the answer was always the same: it's too dangerous. So Mamoon, every day when he went to work, and every day when he went from work to his home, it was iffy as to whether or not he would make it. Constant attacks on him. In fact, we bought him a bulletproof, ballistic-proof BMW. And often he wouldn't ride in because he knew they'd attack it. So he'd get in the back of some little used Yugo, make somebody else drive it. It's pretty smart, actually. Anyway, there was constant roadside bomb attacks on our Marines, and we were frustrated with that. So we asked Mamoon to get some of the bad guys around the table to negotiate with us. So they did. They came around the table. Now, keep in mind, these are former Iraqi military officers who we had fired. We literally took away their ability to provide food on the table for their families. The only way we could get them to the table was we were going to negotiate the withdrawal of American troops from the Al-Anbar province. They wouldn't talk to us until we started saying that. So we're sitting around the table with these bad guys. Started the conversation with quit shooting off roadside bombs. They said, we're not shooting off roadside bombs. Yes, you are. No, you're not. Yes, you are. Finally, they said, yes, we are. Now I'm simplifying the conversation. What I just said to you takes half an hour when you talk to those guys. Anyway, they said, yeah, we are shooting off roadside bombs because we fight you in the street, you kill us. You're better organized, you got better weapons, you're better trained, you're tougher. So, we're going to shoot off roadside bombs. We get lucky, you might hurt one of you. Get real lucky, might kill one of you. You get especially lucky, it's shown back home on American TV, which breaks America's will. Let's get you all the heck out of here. Well, I got mad, stood up, started to walk out. Said, we're just going to settle things the way we've been settling. Mamoon follows me. And he says, Colonel, where are you going? I said, well, they want to keep fighting. We'll just keep fighting. That's the way they want to do it. That's what we'll do. He said, do you ever consider something? I said, what's that? He says, you might be wrong. He said, they understand your sword. They need to understand your words. Oh my gosh. I went back and sat down. We actually negotiated. We actually solved a few issues. I didn't solve everything by any means, but we began to establish a relationship. And the reason I tell you that, I took that understanding of what I learned from him right there and brought it back to America with me and started entering meetings where, you had this adversarial relationship with, I started entering a meeting with, I might be wrong. And it actually opened up a better conversation instead of me being bullying on this is the way it's going to be. And also, if people who want to kill each other can sit around a table and negotiate and talk, why can't people who just don't get along sit around a table and talk? Or politicians, Democrat versus Republican, the list goes on and on and on. Why can't we sit and talk? So I was supposed to be leading him instead. He was leading me. The other thing, when I got done with that meeting that night, I was sitting here thinking, why would they shoot off a roadside bomb? What dawned on me, as I said earlier, we took away their ability to feed their family. So I started thinking, if I was not able to feed my family and somebody offered me $100 to do something I shouldn't do, would I do it? I would. So then it led me back to something we all are aware of. If you don't have a skill, if you don't have some training to where you can get a job, because over there they had no skills, they had no training except military. They knew how to fight. That's it. They had no jobs. They had no education. So they had no hope. So when we're working in workforce development these days, you're not just in the area of trying to teach a skill. You're in the hope building business. I tell teachers now, when we speak to teachers, you're not an educator, you're a hope giver. Because if these students can learn a skill, they can learn a trade, then when they get out, they'll be able to feed their families and they won't go do something they're not supposed to do. So he taught me that while I was over there. We go to the next one. Yes. Oh, I do want to share one other thing. If you'll go back to that real quick. You've heard me talk a lot about work ethic and taking care of your employees, et cetera, et cetera. But another thing he taught me, the weekends for the Iraqis was on Friday and Saturday, not Saturday and Sunday. So I remember talking to him saying on one Thursday, I said, hey, let's get a helicopter tomorrow. Let's go to Baghdad since they won't come to us. We go, let's go to Fallujah. We got to hire a police chief down there. Come on, let's go do some stuff. And he kept saying, no, I want to go home to my family. So well, no, come on, Governor. We didn't have anywhere to go. Let's work. And he said, let me ask you something. He said, tell me about your work ethic when you're back home. Your work hours. I said, well, okay, just I'm gonna brag a little bit. Here we go. So I get in about 7. I leave about 7. And Saturdays, usually work during the morning. I used to take off Saturday night, and Sunday mornings I take off. But Sunday afternoon, I'm back at it again. What do you think about that? And he said, well, which one's more important to you, your family or your work? I said, well, my family, of course. And this is what he did. You got me, Governor. Many other lessons I'd like to share with you sometime, but for the sake of time, we'll move to the next one. There's a good library of movies in my house. Most of them, the old VHS, they're all Disney's from the kids and et cetera, but there's a few that are mine. Gladiator, Patriot, 300, and the best movie of all time, Braveheart. You might notice a little trend in those movies. Little battles to be fought, adventures to experience, beauties to protect, but most importantly is overcoming adversity. My favorite quote from that movie, there was actually 2 of them. All men die, but few men truly live. And the best one, men don't follow titles, they follow courage. William Wallace, the star of that movie may or may not have been a fictitious character. I don't know. But I do want to tell you about Lance Corporal Terry Velour. Before I talk about Lance Corporal Terry Velour, though, I want to mention a movie to you. If you get a chance, go watch this. 2000 movie called Taking Chance, starring Kevin Bacon. It's about Chance Phelps, who was killed in Iraq. And Kevin Bacon, as a Marine officer, wanted to escort his body back to his parents' house. And I watch that movie every time when I start to feel horrible about what's going on in America, about the things that really, really disturb me. But I sit down and watch that movie, Taking Chance, and I feel better about what our America is about. And I hope you'll take time to watch it. It's truly worth your time. Taking Chance. Back to Terry Velour. October 23rd, 1983, there was a terrorist attack. You can see pictures of it there. The lower left-hand corner is the building after it was attacked. When that blast took place, I was asleep on the floor on the top of another building about 7 to 9 miles away from the blast. I was in charge of security at the American Embassy, which had been attacked continuously. It was my job to keep it from being attacked again. When the blast took place, it woke me up. It was about 6 in the morning, 6:20 in the morning. And I could see one of my Marine guards standing over there. And I said, what's going on? He said, I don't know, sir. There's a big blast. We didn't think much of it because there's a lot of blasts over there. I got up, got dressed. There was another blast immediately after that. Again, we didn't know what it was, but it was quite a very large blast. I went down to our headquarters and was listening to our company commanders talking back and forth. The battalion was not on it. You could hear the description of what had happened. Literally saying, battalion headquarters is gone. BLT, Battalion Landing Team 1-8 is gone. And then began to understand magnitude of what had happened. The building there on the right, that you can see is still unaffected. And what it looks like on the left and right is what happened to that building. So a terrorist attack, who we found out later on, had attended his own funeral a couple of days before, got in a truck, had a flatbed attached to it with a marble base, gas cylinders with plastic explosives that we later traced back to Iran. Don't ever forget that. And he circled around the parking lot and crashed through the Marine gate, went inside the hotel. It used to be a hotel, it's now our headquarters. And you could stand in there and you could see all the way up all four sides, just like a hotel would have been. He detonated a button and immediately killed 241 Marines, just like that. There were bodies that were impaled on trees. There were bodies that were crushed, bodies that were burnt to death. Some we never found. But because there were so many of them, a lot of them came to me at the embassy, where we had a hospital right behind us. There was not enough room on the hospital ships in the Mediterranean, which is off the coast of Beirut. It was there where I met Lance Corporal Terry Velour, because a lot of the wounded Marines were taken into hospital rooms. And in every hospital room, a Marine stood guard outside, was also standing double duty in his regular post at the embassy. I went in to check on every single Marine. Lance Corporal Terry Velour was one of the Marines. Before I went in to see Terry, the doctor stopped me and said, here, put on this mask, and put on this robe, and put on these gloves. And I went inside, and what I saw was horrific. Lance Corporal Velour was laying in bed. His face was so swollen that his eyes could not open. And the doctor said, will you help me? I said, yeah. So I actually lifted up on one side, and the doctor lifted up on the other side, and Velour began to shake. Lance Corporal Velour was a Caucasian, but his skin was all black. When we lifted him up and the nurse pulled the sheet out, and Lance Corporal Velour's skin was laying all over the sheets. The doctor asked me a question, I responded, and that's when Velour realized that there was another American in the room. He said, are you a Marine? I said, yes. And he reached up to touch the flag on my uniform. And then he reached up to touch my rank. And he said, sir, what happened? Now, keep in mind, Lance Corporal is the third lowest rank in the Marine Corps, private first class, Lance Corporal. And I'm a lieutenant, supposed to be leading this young man. He says, what happened? I said, Valor, there's been a horrible terrorist attack. I need to get you something for your pain. He said, no, sir, no. What about? And he starts asking about individual Marines, Sergeant so-and-so, Lance Corporal so-and-so, Staff Sergeant, where are they? Are they okay? I said, Lance Corporal Valor, I don't know. We won't know for a while. There's been a horrible attack. You're lucky to be alive. Let me get you something for your pain while the doctor's here. We were holding hands. And he shoved me away. And he said, sir, go find out about those Marines. Now, I'm not used to taking orders from Lance Corporals, but I understood what he meant. So I said, okay. So I began to walk out, and as I was opening up the door, I was thinking, do I really want to come back and tell him this horrible news, or just let him go ahead and pass? I began to open the door, and I hear him say with confidence, with strength, with honor, he says, Semper Fidelis, sir. So I opened the door. All I could do was muster through some tears. Semper Fidelis, Lance Corporal Valor. And I left. I never thought I'd see him again. When I got back to America, I'm a little courage of myself. And I called his family because I wanted to tell them what a pleasure, what an honor it was to have known his son, their son. And their response astounded me. They said, well, he's not here. I didn't know what to say to that. And I said, well, they said, he's back home at in the hospital in Washington, D.C., recovering from his wounds. I had no idea he lived. I said, thank you. So I ended up reconnecting with Lance Corporal Valor. And every day on October 23rd, we reconnect. Now, he's obviously still battling his wounds, PTSD. But every year on October 23rd, as Vanessa knows, Vanessa got to talk to him on the phone this October 23rd. So every year we reconnect. When I think of Lance Corporal Valor, I think of that movie Band of Brothers. Some of you probably seen that series, Band of Brothers. A lot of people think it came from the Band of Brothers, came from that movie. It didn't. It actually came from Shakespeare. King Henry V. Quote goes like this: whoever does not have the stomach for this fight, let this man depart. Give this man his money in order to speed his departure, since we wish not to die in this man's company. And whoever lives past today will rouse himself every year on this day and show his neighbors his scars and tell embellished stories of his great feats of battle. And these stories shall teach his son. And from this day forward until the end of the world, we shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, the band of brothers. For whoever shall shed his blood with me shall be my brother. So I always consider Lance Corporal Terry Valor to be my band of brother. I was supposed to be leading him, but instead he led me. In every tragedy and everything that happens, there's always a funny story. I got to share it with you. October 23rd, what happens on the third Saturday in October? Anybody remember? We play Alabama. So after the blast, within a half hour after the blast, I'm sitting at the guard post, and I hear a phone ring in the guard shack, and I hear this Marine say, "Yeah, Lieutenant Burdine's sitting right here." I look up and I say, "What are you talking about?" No, but didn't have cell phones back then, didn't have internet, didn't have even none of that. So the phone rings. I go, "Hello?" And I hear one of my former college roommates, Ken Sire, say, "Miles?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "We kicked Alabama's ass, man." And I said, "Sal, how did you find me?" He said, "We were at a party." And it was Sunday morning when the blast took place, but America was Saturday night. He said, "We're at a party," and somebody says, "Where's Miles?" And somebody else says, "He's in Beirut." So he picked up the phone and said, "Give me Beirut, Lebanon." So they go to Beirut, Lebanon, which goes to the embassy, and the embassy knew I was outside protecting them. And they said, "Yeah, he's over here." And so here I am. So, oh my gosh. So he said, "You don't sound too happy." I said, "Sal, will you do me a favor?" He said, "Yes." So will you call my family and tell them I'm okay? He said, "What do you mean? What's wrong?" I said, "I cannot tell you. It's an unsecure line, but just please call my family and tell them I'm okay." So he did. Of course, within an hour, it was breaking news. But to this day, Sal was able to tell the world, anybody who listened, he tells it a lot, that he knew something bad had happened before the president of the United States did. And I'm pretty sure he did. He just didn't know what. So anyway, I had to share that quick story with you. Getting close to closing time. Sorry, I've gone over longer than I thought I would. I want to thank you again for what you do. I also want to say to you that if you get discouraged in your job, if you get discouraged in what's happening in your community, you get disappointed in how some of your political leaders are behaving locally, and if you get disappointed in some of the things that you want to happen or just not happening, find a person who's moved here, moved to your community, and ask them why they moved here. My gosh, they'll make you feel good. They'll make you feel good about where you are, where you're living, and what you're doing, and also give you inspiration to keep doing what you are doing and what you are about in your job. I want to read a quote to you from Jeff McCord. Yes, that is the Commissioner of Workforce Development, Labor and Workforce Development. He's a personal friend of mine. He's from, used to live in, not from Kingsport, but he's worked in Kingsport and Workforce Development for Northeast State Community Colleges for years before he became the commissioner. And he used to write a column for the Times News every Sunday, and I always look forward to it. So here's a quote that I actually am so proud that he wrote, and I'm going to share it with you because what you do for a living, you'll appreciate. Over time, beauty becomes boring, graciousness a given, and miracles mundane. Familiarity makes us forget what we are seeing. And more often than not, it takes someone with a fresh set of eyes to remind us. That's why you need to go find someone who's moved to your community. You won't be disappointed. I'm going to close by talking about the dash. When I talked earlier, when I mentioned earlier about my father's tombstone, the date he was born, the day he died, but what mattered most was that dash between those two dates. So that book, The Dash, is based on this poem, The Dash, which I'm going to read to you. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates of a tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came her date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years, for that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved her know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you would like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel. And be less quick to anger and show appreciation or, and to love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this little dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's action to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? Last thing I want to mention is those two books right there. The one on the right, Make Your Bed, Admiral William H. McRaven. I would encourage you to go listen to his speech at the University of Texas, wrong color of orange, but still good speech at the University of Texas, where they have a sign that says, what starts here changes the world. I'm not promoting University of Texas, but that's a great quote. But Admiral McRaven wrote that book called Make Your Bed. And it's about start your day by accomplishing something, make your bed. And the rest of it talks about how the things he went through as a Navy SEAL apply in everyday life. Well, one of the things he said in his speech at the University of Texas that really struck me is something I'm going to translate into our little group here. There's about 50 people in this meeting right now, here and online. Supposedly every American will meet 10,000 people in their lifetime. That's a lot of people. So if every one of you changed the lives of 10 people, and each one of those changed the lives of 10 people, just 10, then in 5 generations, you, this 50 right here, would positively impact the lives of 5 million people. So let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Miles. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I do have to add one story of Miles. He talked about his family first philosophy, and we have a policy in our office. I think he knows what I want to say. It's the leave loud policy. When my youngest daughter, when I started working at the chamber, she was 7 and played every sport there is. And ended up going and playing college ball. She's now almost 22. And, typically, how am I going to get out here to get to those ball games, especially when she was younger? Well, Miles and I sit at the back of our chamber building with the staff door. And it wasn't that I had needed to sneak out and be like, oh, I've got a meeting, I got to go. It was, hey, Miles, I'm going to Mackenzie's ball game. He wanted us to leave loudly, be proud, family first. And there's been lots of times when Miles showed up at the games or at her college signing, he was there too. So that's the type of leader he is. So thank you for sharing with us today. So what we want to do now, one of the best things that I love about TCCE is, I said steal, but Rick corrected me earlier, we're borrowing ideas from our chamber professionals across the state. So I had several that were emailed to me, and then I hope some people in the audience will share with us too, just some great ideas that you have through the pandemic or anything that you're doing with your chamber right now. The ones that I've received online, I hope you all are still, so you can share with us. Brooke Coffey, are you still on from Burdine County?
Yes.
Can you share with us what 31 under 31 is? I have seen it on social media, and I think this is a great idea. Can you share with us more on that?
Of course. So what we did is in the month of March, we highlighted 31 young professionals in Burdine County under the age of 31. And then at the end of the month, we had an event and got them all together to network, and we had some community leaders come out and introduce themselves, and it was an incredible time. And we still, even now, we have a Facebook group, and we've got those young people posting in the group every day and staying connected. And it's been a really great way to show what young talent we have in our community. So I definitely recommend Steal It because it has been so much fun.
I didn't know which one to do. Thank you very much. I think that's an excellent idea. Any way that we can promote, especially our young professionals in your communities, I think it's a great idea. So thank you, Brooke, for sharing. Next up is Karen Clark from the Claiborne Partnership. It's a Who Is This Chamber Member game. Karen, can you share more on that? I love this idea.
I can. We've just recently started it, and what we're doing is just popping into different chamber members, and my assistant and I take pictures with somebody that is not necessarily the owner, but somebody that works there, and show them working, or we will show a place inside of, like, we went to one of our Mexican restaurants. We have like 8 Mexican restaurants that belong to our small chamber, but we took a picture in front of this race car thing because they sponsor somebody that races at our dirt track that we have that's so famous. And so it was guess where we are. And so everybody starts guessing Gatto's Tacos, Gatto's Tacos, Gatto's Tacos. And it got said, like 150 times. And so they were thrilled because it kept coming up on everybody's news feed. And so we're doing it over and over. And now I've got businesses calling and saying, hey, I'll donate a prize if you will come and do this to my business. And so we're just doing Where's the Chamber? And it's just a fun little thing, and we pop into the business. It takes 5 minutes, and it's working out really well. But we put all of the names that guess where we are, and just pull out a random name and give away something that we either have at the chamber or what the business has donated.
Thank you. I see heads nodding, so I think that one may be borrowed too. So thank you, Karen. Let's see, Mark with Convergent sent us a 1-2 from the Greater Springfield, Ohio Chamber, who launched a very extensive outreach initiative during COVID. Mark, can you share more about that?
Sure. When I saw the email yesterday, I was just trying to think of our chamber clients and if anything came to mind. And the Greater Springfield Chamber in Ohio, I think that they did a really strong, extensive, organized, intentional outreach program when COVID hit. And I think that most, if not all, chambers have done some version of this, but theirs was really in depth. Over the course of 2 or 3 months, they made over 600 calls and Zoom meetings to businesses in the community, members and non-members. We were doing a campaign for them when COVID hit, and it paused for a couple of months. They reached out to investors, non-investors, just trying to find out how businesses were doing, finding out, trying to understand their situation and trying to figure out how the chamber could help them. And when we resumed their campaign last summer, I really think that paid dividends. And by the end of the year, we had raised over $4 million for them, and we exceeded their goal that was set pre-COVID. I really think that a large part of that was their outreach initiative. And the exec recently told me that even though the campaign's over, and even though the pandemic is potentially nearing its end, they're going to continue it because they found it to be so valuable. So they are almost continuously having dedicated staff reach out to businesses in the community. And I just thought that I'd share that.
I think that's fantastic. It's funny to know last February, who knew what we were going to have to be doing during a year of a pandemic in the chamber world. So any stories like that we can share, I commend everyone for all the things that they had to do outside the box. It was not a normal year for anyone. So,
yeah, that's so true. And we have a written case study on that. If anybody wants it, just let me know. We're happy to email that to you.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Anybody else on Zoom? Share some other great ideas with us.
In Lawrence County, we started a marketing assistance program where businesses apply and we pay a portion of the fees for our members to receive marketing, either video or photos. And it's really been great. As a rural chamber, a lot of our members just don't know how to take good video or good photo, and they weren't showing up well online. And with the assets they received from our marketing assistance grant, they're really showing up now. And those photos and videos are being seen all over through us and through the members.
Fantastic. Anyone else?
Hey, Vanessa. Kim here from the Gallatin Chamber. Susie, I didn't send over anything, but Susie had asked me to share some of our stuff. And in Gallatin, we did a lot of stuff. We never really stopped. And I like what Miles said this morning about, how you approach a problem with your attitude. And that was kind of how we started out last year. I gave my team the option. I said, we're probably going to work remotely. I said, you're either going to be in or you're out. And whatever y'all need to do for your kids or your families, you need to tell us. And fortunately, I don't have any 9-to-5ers at my office. So they were all in for the long haul. So we were able to do a lot. Couple of things that we're doing right now that I think all of you could do. And I think it's very shareable. We've had great response from our community, as we know that a lot of our schools, our K-12 schools, have a lot of restrictions in place still as far as having guests in. And this is the time of the year where most of them do career days or career fairs. So we heard from some of the elementary schools that were trying to wrangle all of these different career fields and get everybody to send in their own videos. And when I read their email and the sweet teachers asked for it, I was like, this is going to be a disaster, because you're going to have some guy that really knows how to do video, and then you're going to have somebody that's going to film half their head with their phone upside down. And so I said, you know what, we have the capacity to do this. So we spent 3 days last week, and then we're doing 2 more days this week. We have filmed already about 30 different careers, all in our membership. And then we're going to be doing about 10 more tomorrow and Friday. What we're doing this month is we're uploading those videos directly to our social media, 1 a day, and a Work Here in Gallatin campaign. So again, it's spotlighting our members, but then it's also telling the community about these careers. And we're putting them all on different playlists on our YouTube channel, and that we will be sending to all of our K-12 partners. So they can use these for their own virtual career day if they choose to have one, or they can incorporate them into their curriculum throughout the year. Another one that we've been doing is also video, and it's called Driving the Community, similar to what I think, was it Karen said about just popping in and showcasing members. But we're going in and we worked with our car dealerships, because in our community, we have a lot of car dealerships. There's not a lot, everybody knows what they do. They all sell cars. Unless you're looking for a car, you don't necessarily need them. So we went to them for sponsoring this. So they covered the cost of the video production. We're using someone outside our office for this particular video production. And we're going in and doing a 3 to 5 minute spot in some of our businesses that need a little more exposure. Either it's a nonprofit that folks just don't know what it does, or it's a unique business that has to have explanation to understand it, or it's cool to look at when you go inside. So we're doing these, and it's called Driving the Community. The pre-roll is the car dealership. So we go out, we film their cars. So it's like a tiny commercial for the cars. And then the content of the video is about the business at hand. And so that we're exploring. And so we talked to them about how they're driving community and how they are kind of building community right here at home. So those have been really fun. I think anybody could do those in their office. You don't necessarily have to hire a video crew, but if you have resources to do that, you can certainly do that. Susie, did you have anything in mind you wanted me to share?
No, oops, sorry.
Okay.
No, I just noticed that you had done so many activities and just wanted you to share a few. So thank you so much.
Yeah, those are, and then, I think anything we can do, shop local. We started a late till 8 event, trying to encourage some of our retailers. I'm sure some of y'all struggle with this too. Your retailers are open 9 to 5, which I always say, if you're open to 9 to 5, you are serving the unemployed, which usually the unemployed people can't come shop right now. That might be different. But we are trying to get them to stay open later. So we've launched a late till 8 and just trying to get everybody to stay open from 5 to 8. So once a month.
Good. Thank you very much, Kim.
Yeah.
So we are going to wrap up. I know people have other things they've got going on today. I do want to remind you that we have our annual conference coming up August 18th through the 20th in Knoxville. So excited. We hope to see some of you all there. It felt very good to be here in Nashville in person these past few days. So I hope we can have even more come August. Mark Field has a great time planned for us. And then we're working on dates for our TCCE that'll be coming up later this fall. As always, we appreciate all you do across the state for your chambers. Please continue to share ideas with us. Big shout out to Susie and Carolyn. They always do an amazing job for us too. Have a great rest of your day. Keep being awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, for leading this.